The greatest thing that ever lived. I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
For a relatively young company, KTM is floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. They're growing fast and doing it the old-fashioned way, by building some of the best bikes in the world. Maybe the best. Controversial statement? Maybe, but there's plenty of evidence to back it up. Despite having roots that go back a fair way, KTM is a relatively new company that is growing at an incredible rate. It is one of the companies that does not in the least care about heritage and nostalgia. If you're waiting for a retro bike from KTM, settle in. You're going to be waiting a while. KTM is not interested in reliving the past, but rather in creating the future. Their bikes look and accelerate like rocket ships, and despite the fact that that's not everyone's cup of tea, that's what you're getting when you buy one. A twitchy, high-strung, tuned to the max motor with a light, stiff frame and great suspension. If you want to beat your friends on the track or a twisty road, get a KTM. If you want a relaxed ride, look elsewhere. And KTM is coming out with a whole new line of 500cc bikes to take over the middleweight market. A market that is perhaps the most important in attracting new riders and keeping older riders on two wheels. Will they be the greatest middleweight bikes in the world? Stay tuned. The KTM brand is part of the Pierer Group, which also owns Husqvarna and GasGas, and is the largest motorcycle manufacturer in Europe and one of the largest in the world. KTM sold over 280,000 motorcycles in 2019. And just to put that into perspective, Ducati sold 53,000, Triumph managed 67,000, BMW sold 175,000, and even the mighty Harley-Davidson only moved 217,000 bikes in 2019. KTM's success can be largely attributed to aggressive technological development, an almost fanatical pursuit of performance at a relatively reasonable price, and an expansion of their manufacturing and market focus to India. The brand is also exploding in North America and is the fastest growing motorcycle manufacturer in the United States, increasing its market share by 3.6% from 2018 to 2019. With 9.7% of the US market in 2019, roughly 1 in 10 new motorcycles sold there were KTM's, and the company is not slowing down for a second. Instead, they are investing heavily in R&D and continually updating existing models as well as introducing new ones to make sure that their bikes are leading the market. Examples? In the big bore adventure bike segment, the KTM 1290 Super Adventure is the most powerful and by far the lightest bike you can buy. Most capable middleweight adventure bike? KTM 790 Adventure R. The best performer in the middleweight naked bike segment? It used to be a toss-up between a few brands, with the KTM 790 Duke squarely in the mix, before KTM decided to end the conversation with the new 890 Duke.
I am the king of the world. Hold it. Hold it, you're not that crazy. I'm a bad man. Wait.
There was no real reason to upgrade the 790, as it had only been introduced in 2019 and was already one of the top bikes in the class and very competitive on price. But KTM doesn't just want to be one of the leaders, they want to bury the competition. And how much do you want to bet that the 890 engine will be replacing the 790 in the Adventure models soon, as well as powering a new Supermoto? The 890 Adventure will be by far the most powerful middleweight ADV bike in the world and will probably be lighter than the already light 790. Add to that the fact that most KTMs are packed with the latest tech from Bosch, including things like lean-sensitive ABS, multi-level lean-sensitive traction control, anti-wheelie, they need it because some of them power wheelie in third gear, rider modes including off-road options, and Supermoto braking, that's ABS on the front wheel only. And you have the most sophisticated and most technologically advanced bikes in the world. One of the new model lines will be the KTM 490 range, which is set to debut as many as 5 motorcycles for the 2022 model year, a fact that has for the first time been confirmed by CEO Stefan Pierer. In an interview with French magazine Le Repaire de Motards, Pierre states that the 490 range is coming in 2022, which may mean that the bikes could be available sometime in 2021, as next year's models are often rolled out months before the year even begins. Here is the picture that was leaked last year, which seems to indicate where KTM is heading. The clear models are the ones here already. The blurred ones are on the way, or were on the way when this pic was leaked. Also, you may notice that some are more blurred than others, which may indicate that they will be introduced later. The smallest KTM coming to North America will be the 390 series, and here we see a blurred bike which is already out. That's the 390 Adventure. Next to that we have a Supermoto and Enduro version, presumably with the same 371cc engine. The Duke and RC sport bike have been out for a while. Near the top of the picture we have what must be an 890 Adventure, along with some extremely blurry pictures in the same row. One seems to be a Supermoto, but the one beside it is certainly not an Enduro, judging by the size of that 17-inch front wheel. The last pick is probably the 890 Duke, which is out now. The most fascinating row is showing the new parallel twin 490 series, with the 490 Duke the least blurred. Is this the bike that's coming out first? There is also the 490 Adventure, which will be the most important bike in the range given the popularity of adventure bikes. The other images are pretty blurred, but one is clearly a Supermoto and another one is an RC sport bike. The final one sits where an Enduro should, but again, the 17-inch front wheel makes you wonder. Maybe it's a sports tourer. Furthermore, Stefan Pierer noted in his interview that corresponding Husqvarna 501 models using the 490 KTM engine are also on the way. At this time, no more updates to the 1290 range seem to be forthcoming in the immediate future. So where will the 490 fall in terms of weight and power? No numbers are published, but we can make some educated guesses. The 390 single-cylinder engine produces about 44 horsepower at the crank, while the 690 makes about 74. A 490 twin is closer in displacement to the 390, but twins make more power than singles, so expect it to be close to the middle between the 390 and the 690. The exact midway point between 44 and 74 is 59 horsepower at the crank. Remember that the rear wheel horsepower as measured on a dyno will be lower due to mechanical friction losses. Also remember that the bike most comparable to the 490 will be the 471cc Honda CB500X, which makes about 47 horsepower, the exact number which meets European A2 license requirements. The weight of these bikes is harder to predict. They will be heavier than the 390s as two-cylinder engines require more parts, but certainly lighter than the 790 range. The 490 is again closer in displacement to the 390 than the 790, but being a twin may sit in the middle ground between the two. So a 490 Adventure, certainly the most anticipated bike in the range, may have 59 horsepower and weigh 427 pounds wet. Stick a 21-inch front wheel on it and some decent suspension, and that's a bike that a lot of ADV riders would find hard to resist. And KTM, being KTM, may very well beat those numbers, as they seem to have a magical ability to produce wildly powerful and feather-light bikes. It should also go without saying that the 490 range will have electronics at least as sophisticated as the 390 Adventure, which has lean-sensitive traction control and 2-channel lean-sensitive ABS. So I'm probably sounding like a fanboy, and I am, even though I've never owned a KTM. I've ridden 4 of the models though, and each has impressed me with its lightness and performance. These bikes truly are special, and I appreciate engineers who are clearly in the business of delivering the maximum amount of thrills to the rider. However, I feel a responsibility to keep it real with my viewers as well, and mention some of the criticisms leveled at KTM. The looks of these bikes are an acquired taste. People have strong reactions to the insect-inspired styling. My least favorite KTMs are the 1290 Super Adventure models because of the size of the headlight, which overpowers the rest of the bike's styling. My opinion only, your mileage may vary. However, I also rode both 1290 models and forgot all my gripes with their looks after the first twist of the throttle. Another big criticism of KTM surrounds the reliability of their bikes. My Moto Guzzi has been less than reliable, which has been quite inconvenient and cost me a fair amount of money. When I made a decision to replace it with a middleweight adventure bike, I went with a Tenere 700 because Yamaha has the reputation of being the most reliable motorcycle manufacturer according to Consumer Reports. I could afford a KTM 790 Adventure, which would have given me way more power and all the bells and whistles for not that much more money. But having been bitten a couple of times by the only European bike I ever owned, and having not ever had any serious problems with any of my previous Japanese bikes, I decided to play it safe with a Yamaha. Truthfully, when a company like KTM pushes the envelope in attempting to make lighter and more powerful bikes, one would expect reliability to suffer a little. But is slightly lower reliability an acceptable price to pay for innovation and class-leading performance? Let me know in the comments. Although there is no hard data stating that KTMs are unreliable, I've been around motorcycles for a couple of decades now and have heard some stories. And while anecdotal evidence is far from conclusive, and I acknowledge that I could be being very unfair to KTM by making assumptions, I've spent enough time and money on a motorcycle in the shop that a known quantity like Yamaha looks really good right now. The final criticism of KTM is that their warranties don't cover as much as other manufacturers, and that certain parts of the bikes are not covered at all. I don't know enough about this topic to illuminate it to my viewers, but if you own a KTM, please drop a comment below and let me know about your experience. Was it reliable? Were there warranty problems? Are these rumors true or unfounded? Should I have gotten a 790 Adventure instead of a T7? Since my T7 is still not here, I'm starting to wonder, as there are 790s sitting on dealership floors as I'm recording this. And if you haven't owned a KTM, does the sheer performance and technological wizardry at a fairly reasonable price tempt you to give one a try? The brand's popularity is exploding, especially among young people. It's one of the few companies that didn't seem to have missed a step during the pandemic. They didn't lay anyone off and their sales continue to climb come hell or high water. Will KTM someday be the juggernaut that all other motorcycles are judged against? We'll see. They certainly have my attention.
I shook up the world! I shook up the world! I shook up the world!
If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding, we're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.